Hello, welcome back. Another second video on the tools I use to analyzing malwares. Okay, so depend on the type of malware it is. So malware wise, there's significant amount out there, different type of library, different type of um, code sample code that being used. So you can do different things to it, right? So I think this is more gain over based on the experience that you would have. So from the two class, right? That you're gonna have a binary and you would have let's say ULs, right? So what tools do you use when you're analyzing this, right? So for binary, I always use Chrome, um, Chrome browser, then and it's always gonna be, I'm just gonna move it on top here, right? So it's gonna be proxy, always turn it on, just to put it, because of the reason for the proxy is many of the fish is geo aware or geo targeted. So you want to have a different type of use a proxy to make sure that you always protect yourself. The second that I also use for the Chrome is the extension is a no script, right? To disable the script, so I would walk through and analyzing the code, make sure that it doesn't do any type of weird stuff like exploitation, right? So here is basically this is all I use to analyzing, right? And I would look at the source code to analyzing the HTML files, for example. Then for anything, I'm primarily using Python to do any extraction or decoding. So I would copy, a sample of code, then decrypt it from using Python. I'm always using basic4 encoder.org. I don't know why I get used to this. So instead of using my own, I just go to website, dump it, the encoding to decode it quickly. Right? So this is some of the stuff that I would do. Nothing complex, just very raw type using looking at the source code itself, right? But always before this is I would be in the Linux server, and like to analyze the files beforehand. So I'm not just executing anything. Like then I would use wget cur to download file. All right, so this allow me to basically just download it and analyze it to see beforehand to see if there's anything, because you don't want to run open up the web page blindly, right? Because it can contain 0-day exploit or a lot of information that you share, right, to the cyber criminals. So always using Linux, wget basic stuff, and I also using Vim to analyzing text file. And when downloading, tools that use a file from Linux to get the file type, right, the metadata from there. So that's about it. Yeah. From a binary standpoint, I use gitdraw. Right. So beforehand, I think I should put a step back in this. Is is always, as you seen in video, I always run files to get the metadata from it. Then it would be floss, right? To see if there's any decoding from it. From here, you can do the short search. I don't typically use it too much, but I do have it in my path to analyze it. Then bin walk. Bin walk is a tool that allow you to searching for embedded files in the binary. So this is if the malware contain embedded file, you would be able to identify it in there and do a search. Besides from bin walk, what else? So DD is to extract out the file. So if the command would be to basically extract out the file, embedded file within that spit out from bin walk. Right? Yeah, I think that's in Python, of course. Always use Python in Vim, right? Because I'm a command line person, so I always in the terminal looking at things rather than using a thick client software. Yeah, this is pretty much the core of what I use every day, right? So sequentially, it's gonna be file, then bin walk, and depend on what it is, go from there. So in from a class of binary, right? So you have an executable. Then you want to know most of on the Windows side, is it Win32 or .NET, right? And this is depend on the type tools you want to use. So in the .NET, you would want to use DNSpy. It's good tools that mostly primarily used to analyzing .NET file. In the Win32, it's gonna be Gitra or Ada Pro. Right. So you would want to do this. The other tools that always use is to identify the resource of it is the resource hacker. Okay. Then it would be strings. I should put strings up here. It's my initial type of usage is string. So resource hacker, there's what else? I don't do any packer identification. I don't use that anymore. The reason is most of it is just like misinformation, or the signature is not that great anymore, so I don't really use it that much. And the more you analyzing files, you get it better, right? So but in here you have a variety of different class, right? So depend on the type of window executable it is, right? So you have if the software developed in C, C++, that's gonna be Rust, that's gonna be Golang, right? Then there's also Python, right? So with this, you can use Gitra, primarily use Gitra for this, right? Golang as well. Well, all of this is using this. But there's Golang extension decompiler that you can use to with a plugin of Gitjo, right? And I believe Rust too. So there's also Delphi, right? And this you would use what's the tools? There's a Delphi decompiler that you can use to do it. So yeah, Python you can decode it as well. So let's open up a VM real quick. And so most of the Gitjo I run it from the outside the VM because it's just a binary. Like analyzing the binary only, it doesn't do any runtime or debugging, right? So I'm always running on Linux on my Mac machine for the Gitjo. So for my virtual environment, I primarily have as you see in here, the DNSpice. For the Delphi, it would be interactive Delphi reconstructor. Right? For VB script or VB virtual basic binary, then you can use the this application to do it. Is most of the malware that I'm analyzing, I barely see any VB, so yeah, you wouldn't see that. There's import reconstruction that you can use to do like unpacking from here. So I do use it sometime, but mostly using debugger to reconstruct, right? So there's OllyDBG that primarily use x64DBG. There are also OllyDBG 2.1 as well. Yeah, my environment is very basic, right? I don't have tools. I do have these cracker tools that use. It's basically contain a lot of different applications for reverse engineering. So yeah, just be careful, what sample you download from, because it can contain malwares in it. But this is kind of like the only thing I use for is just the DNSpice and ID reconstructor. Right? So nothing serious. I don't typically run malwares in here. I usually never run malware. I only run malware through debugger. So so I don't have tools that do the Wireshark or anything like that. That would be using most of the popular malware sandbox out there would be enough for me to do it. So yeah, that's about it. Very basic. I think that the main one I would say is I use this heavily floss strings source search binwalk DD Gitjo and Python, right? And depend on the type of library, this is all I use. So I primarily just focusing reverse engineering. So very basic. Python is what I do to decompiling or unpacking sample. So yeah, that's about it. Let me know if you have any question. Thank you.